everybody, what's up? My name's Mackenzie.
And I'm Jonathan.
We are husband and wife, and we'd like to welcome you to TerreDice.
And today we pose the question, does generative AI deserve a place in board games?
Dun, dun, dun. So this is a hot topic that's been going around for a while now. AI in all fields has been coming into play. And there's a big discussion of should it, how much of it, and where is the moral value, I think, or where do you lie? So in board games specifically, if you haven't been involved or if you have been, there has been people generating board game art, and sometimes it's actually being published into games. So we honestly just want to have an open discussion, and we'd love to talk to you guys in the comments too, but we're just going to have an open dialogue about should this be a thing? Does AI art belong in board games? Where does it have a place? Should it be there at all? Yeah. So that's kind of the premise. So if that's something you want to learn about and discuss, then just keep watching.
Okay, now those who don't know me personally don't know that I'm kind of actually like an expert on generative AI in that I work for an AI company and I work in software and I do this stuff all day, day in, day out, and I do it in healthcare. So I'm doing this to try to make healthcare a better place where we can reduce the cost of care, where we can reduce the amount of time that someone spends in the hospital, where we can reduce the denials that people get on their insurance claims when proper documentation isn't provided that says I should have had this procedure. So it's doing amazing things in that space, and I'm in full support of the AI wave. But when we start talking about generative AI when it comes to board games, my feelings are a little bit different, and they're a little bit mixed, honestly. So I think I'll start off by giving two examples. I think that generative AI in board games, if I think about Everdell, or a game that I consider to have very beautiful, gorgeous art, that game is an art piece to me. I've bought it because it's beautiful, because I love the way it looks, all the character, the humanity, the animal just kind of vibrance that it has. Mm-hmm. That to me, I've bought something that I want to put on my shelf that I want to show people. And that's like purchasing, an art piece that I would hang on the wall. And for me, I would never want that to be generative AI based. So I don't want, I want something that's drawn by a human that had a lot of passion put into it. Same goes for our projects and the games that we design. We hire artists who come in and paint our things. Now, if I'm talking about something like Terraforming Mars, which recently had an expansion that had generative AI art in the expansion, I never thought Terraforming Mars was very pretty. It's actually one of the ugliest games ever, but it's fun, and it's clear that to them, rather than form, it was a function thing. It's we have to have art because no one will buy our game if it's just text. And in that case, it doesn't actually really bother me. It's okay, it's there to fill a purpose of just painting a picture in your mind. But you're not buying Terraforming Mars for the art. You're buying it for the puzzle you're doing. Same with Ark Nova. Same with some of these other games, which don't really put as much focus on the artistic nature of the game. So I would say in those cases, maybe it is okay. At least for finished products. Yeah.
So you're saying you think maybe it's okay if they aren't going for trying to. I think where the thing goes, are you trying to make people? Where I think the line is drawn is, are you trying to fool people into thinking you paid an artist to make this?
Yeah, or even just are you trying to make people buy something pretty? Because if you're trying to make people buy something pretty, then you basically have used the AI, which is built on a bunch of images that who knows how it got access to it, to create something that you're going to sell. And if that's the selling point, that's where it starts getting weird.
Yeah. Or there's the bunch of people discuss, are you stealing from other artists when it is pulling from different styles and stuff like that?
Yeah.
It's interesting though, because artists also pull from other artists in style. Now, what I talked to our artist or Bark Avenue about it, and we talked about why she loves creating art for board games is because you actually it's playable art. While in a museum, all you get to do is stare at it. But when you play a board game, you get to physically interact with that art in a way that you would never be able to do in most other fields. What about in the beginning stages? What about before it's published? Can I use AI art there? Can I use it if I'm trying to pitch my game to a publisher to get them interested in it?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's where I want to have the discussion. Where is the line of people are probably going to use clip art images. Probably when we design stuff and pull stuff into a collage, we're pulling stuff from different images on the internet and making our own collage.
That's a really good point.
Is that okay?
Because like for instance, our artist, she's absolutely incredible. Her name's April, who does our art for Bark Avenue. Before that, we had Chris, who did like some of the like box cover stuff. Like we use real humans who cost a lot of money and are really great. And honestly, like I think April made more than we did on our first game, and we're proud of that because we're proud to be able to employ real artists. But that said, like to give her a starting point, it's like I can either sketch it like I normally do, which is where I like just draw it out and it's stick figures and it looks really bad. Or I could like go to the internet, pull a bunch of like stock photos and things with the Shutterstock like, you know, watermark over it and say like, I'll put a collage together and be like, this is like roughly the framing I'm thinking, like a building over here, a building over here, 3 dogs in the middle. What do you think? Does this like work? And she'll take that as like a reference point, and then she'll go and she'll draw from scratch. Like her thing, she'll give me a sketch. She'll then like go and do the art. Was what I did any different than what AI does?
Well, so, no, but you're using that as reference point to what she's going to create that artwork for. Mm-hmm. It was never actually shown to the public. Now, the public, but when you're pitching, the discussion I'm talking about is when you're pitching it to a publisher and you're not an artist, you're a designer, but people just don't want to, humans in general don't want to just play like a math game. They want, and so it's hard to like, and people will judge it rightfully. You're
talking about when it's just like a wireframe, when it doesn't have art.
Yes, like, and like people should people be able to use AI art to pitch it? But then are they using when the publishers pick it up? If they use some of the inspiration from that originally created AI art for the actual art, is that fine?
So yeah, that's where I think so the distinction to me is like, okay, if you have a game that stands on its own, a good publisher or a good developer is going to be able to look at it when it's a wireframe with stick figures and stuff, and is going to be able to play it and see, whoa, this game's got good bones. I feel like if you use AI art and you're not like very great at using AI art, you can actually take some soul away from the game, because now you have these soulless anime figures who like all look like that, you know that AI face that I'm thinking of, but like that could potentially harm your game because it takes away some of the like human nature. When it's like, if I draw a stick figure but it was my stick figure, I feel like that brings a lot of heart to the game. Now, if you're like one of our friends, we have a friend Jacqueline who designs lots of games, and she's designing a wedding planning game, and she used AI art for this like competition that was all like AI art generated games. And hers definitely looked the best. It was like she got them all to match the exact same, all the faces looked like they were designed by the same artist. She did her own photoshopping and her own blurring and stitching and all this stuff to like make it actually look cohesive. And there was not a single piece of that looked like it stood out, and it looked like spectacular.
But that's tricky, because that could pass as like someone might think that's actual artwork.
And so the question is, if she goes and says this is AI art, which it was an AI art competition, then great, that's pretty good. But to your point, like we've definitely seen artists who will just like paint over something and be like, okay, it's done now. They remove the 6th finger, they like put back in the clock tower that like was like half there. They do things to like stitch stuff because it's easy. And you almost are creating a like dangerous like foothold or a place for them to start, where it's like, I could just cheat and start with this. Whereas like my collage approach, where I pull together a bunch of images, you're never gonna start from that, because 1, I did a terrible job stitching them. But 2, like they're such different images that like, it's not even worth starting from that point.
It's all interesting because board games doesn't have a wide margin in general as far as profit goes, and we're discussing that art is so expensive because you want to pay the artist like what they're due, because they're so incredibly talented. I can't draw like that. Like that's not a skill I have.
And that's like what sells the game. You see it on a shelf, and that's
exactly
what you buy. Yeah.
So that's like, I don't know. I think there definitely is a line to it. I think where I'm standing right now is that published works that you are asking people to pay money for, those should be done by real art.
I really don't care that Terraforming Mars use AI. It's like, okay, your images were never going to look good, so it's like, at least now it's just like, you can have 500 cards, like, because 500 AI generated images is a lot easier.
Yeah, but if you're trying to fool me thinking an artist did it, but then it's like, do other people care? I don't know.
I think, I've seen enough of these cases where it's like, you really can tell, even if you can't. It's like the 24 frames per second versus 30 frames per second. And it's like, okay, what if our video is 20 frames per second? The eye can start to tell. Even if you can't notice, it feels laggy, it feels like weird, you feel a little dizzy, but like you don't necessarily like know what it is that you're seeing that's wrong. I think with AI art, it's similar. It's like it has this tendency to just fill, where it's like it puts a random like cottage in the background when it's like a futuristic city, or like it like puts in half a building and it kind of like fades into the sky. There's all these sorts of like weird things that people miss when it's like small, but the like crispness of like, the cover of Tapestry of like these games that have these beautiful cities. It's like that was made by a human, and I think while we'll get closer to that with AI generated art, the intentionality that's there, it's like I'm gonna place this here because it matches the theme of this game, because it matches the story I'm gonna tell. We're not there yet.
Art, is that supposed to be created by a machine, or is that an expression that should just be left to a human?
Yeah, I think there's enough arguments in every direction possible. It's like, did you use a paintbrush or a pencil, or did you put a, those things where they put a bucket on a pendulum and you spin it around? Did you do that, or did gravity do that? It's like, there's all these things. Whoa. Where it's like, there's tons of ways to create art, and Jacqueline is like the best prompt engineering AI artist I've like ever seen. Her art looks amazing, and it like actually looks really, really good. But to me personally, I feel that when I'm purchasing a board game that I'm going to put up on a shelf, I want to make sure it's as like intentional as possible. And so whether that's like stitched AI art that I spent hours upon hours making, and it is perfect and you can't find the flaw, or whether it's like, an artist who designed that thing, it kind of just depends what you're going for. I personally think that the board game industry is one of the great places that we can support artists. And so I personally love being able to employ an artist at full pay and like give them exactly what they're due. So I will always want to pay an artist.
It's an interesting discussion, and one I don't think we're going to have an answer with just in this video between us, but I would love to discuss it down in the comments. Where do you see the line with AI art? Like how do you feel it should be in board games? Where's the line? But this has been very interesting. If you want us to bring some like an artist on or things like that and have more discussions about this or different topics that you have about the game industry, we'd love to do it. I love getting super nerdy and deep. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you have just found this video or you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, we are really close to reaching that 10,000 subscribers. So if you can take a moment to subscribe, it would really mean the world to us, and we really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Happy playing.